Hey guys and girls, happy spooky season once again. I am Bored Now, back with you with another horror movie review. Today I'm going to be looking at a film called Seance, which is a Japanese film which came out in 2001. It's directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. As far as I know, no relation to Akira Kurosawa, but I'm not too sure. Let me know in the comments if you happen to know if he is related to Akira or not. Full spoilers from the start of this review, as always. So the setup for this one is that you have a bunch of characters who are all connected by seances. The film opens with an expert student who's into psychology, and he's given his thesis, or the basis for his thesis, to his professor, and it involves paranormal activity and phenomena. He mentions doppelgangers at one point, and his professor is saying, yes, I believe in that stuff as well, and I think it is a part of psychology, but unfortunately, because it's not really recognised as being legit within the field, I can't recommend that you put it in your thesis. So he politely shuts it down, and then we follow the student and this woman he knows, Santa-san, who is an expert in all this and is meant to be able to contact the dead. So the student has this idea to use her to maybe prove to the department that these things are real. And we follow him and others within the department and their experiments where they're trying to prove paranormal phenomena and trying to conduct these different seances to prove this stuff is real. So we just get a few different examples, but what becomes the main focus of the plot as the movie goes on is then Santa-san, who for a lot of the movie is saying, I want to move away from this stuff. And we do see why. We see that some of the cases she gets involved with are quite heavy going, and they really grind her down and get under her skin. And the focus of the movie from that point becomes a case involving a missing girl who has been kidnapped. So she is called in to try and help the police, try to use her powers and help the police to find out where this missing girl is. So again, it's sort of depicting quite a different culture in a way, like this idea that the police would be really down and interested in, okay, we've got no further leads, we're struggling to crack the case, can you help us out? And they're thinking outside of the box. So that's almost the thing that pulls her back in when she's decided that she doesn't want to do this stuff anymore. And we see that the strain that it puts on her relationship, because she's seeing one of the other guys who's in the science department become the main focus then. And I guess I'll get more into that plot in spoilers, but they do come across the girl and things start to happen from there. This was a first time watch. I don't think I've seen any other films by this director, and because it's an early 2000s film, it also counts as part of the J-horror that was coming out of Asia and Japan in particular at this point. And it's really, really good. I think it's very effective. It's very subtle. The character drama is really well done. And that's what I like about Asian horror, especially at this time, is they really focus on the character drama and the domestic stuff, the relationship between the characters. And you get a really satisfying slow burn drama, really, which slowly works in the supernatural elements, and as a result they're more effective. And the horror scenes really work in this. Like, they really make the most of it, of the setting, and just some quite distinct visual moments, use of colour, use of really dramatic weather conditions. So the horror stuff really holds up very well, but it's even more effective because you follow the characters, and as I said, you get this slow burn and you get to know them. And like I said, just little touches like the relationship with Santa San and the other one of the other science guy, where she is starting to feel the strain. And there's some good performances in the movie, especially from that actress, because she's in one of the early scenes where she's waiting for the science student, or the psychology student, as he's giving his little speech to the professor. And you can see that she's on edge in that scene alone. Like, she's alone outside in the corridor. She's on edge. She suspects something is there. So one of the metaphors of the film is that this woman is constantly haunted by something, haunted by her work. So it really plays with that metaphor, and how once she gets involved and caught up in the plot with the missing girl, how that then haunts her and is like standing over her. And the movie does a great job with a lot of that symbolism. So there's a scene in a diner. I can't remember which character this involved, but there's a scene, I think it's with that main character, Santa San, because she mentions to her partner at one point, then when she decides to quit the supernatural stuff, then she wants to just work in the diner. So it's that thing of, I just want a complete break from this really supernatural fancy stuff, this weird stuff, and I want to do something so mundane like work in a diner. And it's just this idea that even working in such a typical place as a diner, she can't escape this stuff, because a girl appears to her out of nowhere next to this customer. And that's a really freaky scene, the way the girl just drops in. She's in a bright red dress, and then she looms over her, because at one point, after she starts panicking, she retreats into like near the back where the bathrooms and that are, and the girl's right behind her, and the girl's got a blurry face, doesn't seem to have eyes. So again, it's this metaphor of her being haunted literally by her work, and these things constantly hanging over her. And the movie plays with that very well. It's very engrossing really throughout, starting with that first scene, because even though it's a little bit pompous the way the professor and the student is talking, it's still very engrossing, the conversation itself. And it's a very grounded movie, which I do appreciate. I appreciate the couple scenes that are a little bit cheesy, but mostly it's played pretty straight, and it makes like the weirder, more supernatural scenes more effective. And I do appreciate that when it comes to the characters, they are just these quite regular, nerdy type guys who are really into their work. They've got a lot of passion, and they just seem like regular guys. And I really like that about it, because it feels like in a lot of these movies, they would just be played up as very cartoony, nerdy type stereotypes. And I don't necessarily think that's always a bad thing. It's just something which grates when you've seen it in so many American movies. So it's just refreshing, and they're not that in this. They're just regular guys who happen to be into like odd sort of activities. It's one of those films where it's got some strange ideas. It feels like a weird movie on paper where it maybe shouldn't work, but it just does work, because there's a subtlety to it and a slightness of hand, and you've got engrossing characters, especially as I said with that one like main female character. Like, she sells so much of her torment in her face, and it also really goes places which I didn't really see, because it goes to very dark, unsettling places when they just happen upon the girl. And again, this is just an example of like she can't escape this stuff because the girl just appears in their boot or something, or their storage, so they're forced to deal with it. And then it starts playing, I think, with this idea of Giacomo or something like that, her first name. She's saying, can we just keep her one more night before we turn her over to the police, because I just want to try and get a reading to see if I can sort out where she was abducted, where she was, and where the killer might be. And the husband reluctantly agrees. And again, we see how it's putting more strain on their relationship. The film, I think, is poking at this idea of, is this maternal instinct kicking in, or is it just that she can't let go of the case? And I think that's why it becomes quite sad and tragic, because she was briefly out of this stuff, and then this pulled her back in, to use a Godfather quote. And from there, she just struggles to get out again. The more they try and hide this, cover it up, the more they try and not do the simple thing and just hand the girl back in. They just get more and more deeper into the mire, and their lives just gets worse, because the husband at one point starts panicking because the girl wakes up and starts screaming, and he smothers her and almost kills her then. But then there's another incident later on where he does actually kill her. And it's funny because for a while he seems like the more sane one, where he's like suggesting, or he's ringing around the hospital so that maybe they can drop her off there, but he doesn't really have any luck getting through. He slowly becomes more unhinged, especially when things lead to another and he accidentally kills the girl. And you get this really effective, spooky sequence late at night where you find the girl in the room and you've got all thunder crackling, and they have to take her and bury her in like private. So once again, it's literally they're getting themselves in deeper, and the more they try and fix it, the worse it gets. Spirit comes back and starts haunting them and just appears at random places. There's a scene when they're out. This feels like a bit more of a funny scene, but I don't think it was intended that way. But they're out at lunch, and the visual of the girl just pops up behind her and is just touching her on the shoulder. And then it starts haunting the husband more, and he starts getting frantic, blaming the girl basically. It's your fault, and you popped up in our boot, and saying, if you want to blame someone, if you want to hate someone, hate me, don't hate Giacomo. This isn't on her. And then we go back to the doppelganger thing from earlier, because he sees himself appear to himself. Just like a brief little scene, but it does call back to that, which was quite nicely done. And he just becomes more and more unhinged, and suspicion falls further on them. And eventually, I think Giacomo's guilt brings her back to the case, and she can't just let things lie, so she's called in. They find the girl's body, so she's called in then to help the police. And that's when things sort of fall apart, and she's sort of forced into admitting then they knew something that they weren't letting on, and they found the body and all the rest of it. So it all comes out in this really dramatic scene near the end, or at the end of the film. And yeah, it's very well done. It's very well played, and good moments of suspense, good direction, good intriguing character drama. So yeah, no, it's very well done. It's a standout movie from Japan. It's also free on YouTube, so that's another bonus. I will put the link in the description to this video, because it's really worth checking out. It's quite a short movie. It's only about 100 minutes, which I think is a good length for any horror in a way. But it feels about right for this sort of horror, where you get a fair bit of drama. As I said, it's quite a slow burn film, but the pacing is quite good, I think. And there's just one or two moments that are a little bit on the nose and cheesy. Like there's a scene, it's late on in the movie, so the husband brings in this guy to try and exorcise the demon, the ghost, and it's this guy in this like ceremonial thing. He's got like a hat on and certain objects, and he just looked very cartoony and silly and just felt a bit out of place because this stuff had been taken quite seriously up to that point. And there's one or two other scenes that are maybe the effect doesn't quite hold up, or you get certain tropes where it's like, okay, this has become a bit of a J-horror trope, like the girl with the long black hair hanging over her face. But I mean, that's not this movie's fault. That's just become something which is very common in these movies. But no, I thought this was very good and possibly up there for J-horror. Really, it was really well done. So it was peculiar but interesting, and as I said, engrossing. So because it's a first time watch, I'll give it 8 out of 10. I won't go super high because it is a first time watch, but it could definitely go up even more on rewatches. But it's definitely a very strong movie, so I would recommend it, and probably one of the best things I've seen so far this month. So that is Seance from 2001, and I'll put the link in the description, as I said, so you can check out the movie for free. Let me know what you guys have been watching this month so far, what you plan on watching, what you think of the movie if you've seen it. Like and subscribe as always. Share me out on social media. You can also join in the channel as a channel member. If you just hit the join in button, there's 3 different tiers with a variety of different bonuses. You can also support me on patreon.com/borednow, or you can donate to the channel via PayPal, or you can just give me a super chat. And one of the 3 ways you can help me out is you could hit the hype button. It's just an added thing YouTube has added recently, where you can, through that, if you hit the hype button, a certain amount of points will go to this video and it will help it get shared out to extra people, hopefully. So that's the idea of it. It's meant to be quite good for smaller creators, and it's a nice easy way for you to help the channel out. So thank you if you do hit the hype button. But keep watching scary movies. I'll be back with another movie tomorrow. Take care, guys. See you soon. Bye.
¿Preparado? Se oye la voz de alguien. ¿Qué estará diciendo?
Está muy cerca.
¿Existe el infierno? Existe si así lo cree usted.
Está muy cerca.
Tranquila. No te preocupes. Solo yo elijo mi destino. ¿Qué hay de malo en eso?
Me prometiste que algo bueno ocurriría. Me lo prometiste.